Okay. Perfect. So recording is started. And hopefully you guys can all see this R markdown. So Heidi, can you see all this like R code on the page?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I'm just going to give a really brief overview, and ultimately I hope that everybody will walk away a little bit more comfortable with R and being able to feel comfortable with the environment and the common syntax used. So just to give a really brief overview, this is R. So what we're seeing here is actually R Studio. So R is in the background. R is a programming language and environment for statistical analysis and also for creating graphics. But when you load just the R software, it's really not user friendly. So that's why we also download R Studio. So the R Studio is this integrated development environment specifically designed for R programming. And this provides a user-friendly interface that makes coding, data analysis, and report generation a little bit more efficient. And actually, I think recently R Studio has integrated like Python and C++ coding as well. So you can do those other codings there. And it's even powerful enough, you can create web pages and things like that. And so, so first, hey, Ian. That's, yeah. And actually, can you all see the screen okay? Do we need to dim the lights in the front? Yeah, you guys are good? Okay. So first we're just this is R Studio, right? And so R Studio is this environment, and it's broken down into 4 different, let's say quadrants. This top left quadrant we see is actually called source pane. And this is our main coding area. So this is mainly where everything's going to be coded. This is the central area where you write and edit your code. And also, we'll get into it, our markdown scripts will take place. And then depending on your settings, your output can also be displayed here. Depends on the options you have set. So if you have show output in line, we can get to that later, but your output will be displayed here, like your figures and statistics and things. I prefer to have it come out here. So then next we have this bottom left quadrant, which is our console pane. And this can also be used to type things. So, we can do like 2 + 2, and it comes out. We can put code there. We can do like short interactive command, like installing packages or things like that. But it also serves as the main place to monitor various messages, warnings, and errors. Like that. So yeah, this is if you have an error come up or something doesn't work, this is where that error is going to come up and tell you at what line it stopped working. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
How do you get that bottom part? I don't have that on mine.
Minimize. I usually figure that out.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can like.
There you go.
And then you can also like adjust that.
Perfect. And also, so yeah, obviously Sam. Sam's talked in your class quite a few times. She's also very proficient in R, so she might just kind of, if you have questions. Yeah, so if you have any like specific things, you can kind of get up and help you. So thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. So then next we have what's called our environment pane. And this is that top right quadrant. And this really just provides a snapshot of your current workspace. It shows a list of your R objects that are currently loaded into your session. And so like data frames will appear here. These are tables that you have stored and really your fundamental structures for working with your data sets. You also can kind of scroll down. You have these values. These can be displayed here for, lists or different functions can be displayed here. And we'll kind of get into some other things later. Finally, we have our output pane, this bottom right quadrant. I have it listed wrong. This serves as a central location for displaying, your various plots and visualizations generated during your session, in addition to a lot of other crucial information. So this files tab here, so if you click on files, This allows you to explore the files and directories, or explore the files in your current directory. And we'll get to that, your current working directory. This plots tab will actually kind of show your, is really dedicated for displaying graphical outputs. So, all the plots or figures that you're generating. Then we have our packages tab. This provides a list of all of the installed packages in your R, or your R file. And then when it's checkmarked here, those are the packages you currently have loaded. And we'll get into installing and loading packages later. Finally, next there's this help tab, and this is very helpful. So if you have any questions regarding any specific package you're working with, you can go here, search the package, and it will kind of tell you a little bit about what that package is. It will tell you some options that you can use and usually give you an example of using that package. There's some shortcuts too. So if I wanted to get help on, let's just say, set working directory, you can highlight it, double click set working directory, and then just click F1. And then that's going to get to your working directory helpline. There's some other things too. If you go down in your console pane, you can just do question mark, set working directory. Well, that should two question marks. Let's do, another package, DPLY. Would it work like that? No. Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyways, those are some shortcuts. I like just using F1. Okay. Finally, is also the viewer tab. The viewer tab is a space where other certain types of interactive content, usually like HTML outputs, are displayed. So something that will show up in your final rendering. We'll kind of get into some other stuff. So you also may be asking, well, what is our markdown? So our markdown is a little bit different. So just really quickly, I'm going to show, we go to new file. This is your R script. This is just R here, and you're very limited on what you can do. Everything written here is actually code compared to R markdown. So we go to file and do R markdown. This allows us to render an HTML file. Yeah, sure, you guys can do that. So let's go ahead. If everybody wants, go to file, new file, and create an R markdown. And you can label it just, I don't know, today's date, which is the 6th. And which is nice, you can put your title, put your name and then your date. We'll click OK. And now you can see that we have a new R markdown.
We have to install, this new download of our studio have to install some packages.
Okay, yeah, if you guys have to do that, let that run. We're not going to use it right away. I'm still going to explain a little bit about R markdown. So, and then also everybody that's on Zoom, if you do have questions, just unmute and speak up. I kind of have everybody hidden. So if you raise your hand, I can't see it.
Sounds good.
Oh, okay. Sam's also going to join the Zoom. So if you want to put questions in the chat, she can help. So yeah, we're just going to take a moment, make sure people have everything installed.
Today's date as a title.
Well, then you just have date twice.
Yeah, once we should reinstall our video.
Do you have the dark theme or what?
Oh yeah, you can play around with themes and make it look nice. Do you remember how you? I don't know.
So you can choose when you make the R markdown if you want HTML.
Or yeah, if you want it. Well, so yeah, we'll get to that later. So just as an example, this is my notes I'm gonna put up here. This is the output of your R markdown. So right now I have it as an HTML. It's interactive, a lot of different things. But you can also have it knit to a PDF file or a Word document or even a PowerPoint presentation. I can't say PowerPoint, but it is an R markdown presentation.
And the reason why you might want to knit it to an HTML or something is because in an R markdown, you can have it display figures. So that is really good. That's the ideal kind of form to share code in, is an HTML, because it doesn't matter what version of R you have. And it'll say, I did this code and I got this image.
Yeah, I will
And
get into that.
so-
I'll get into why we
Yeah.
use our markdown.
So like that's one of the reasons why you might want to do markdown, is it's really shareable.
Well, you see, you're gonna talk about why markdown versus R script.
Not really. I have one sentence actually. So yeah, why R markdown? Yeah, I literally have it right here. R markdown is just a tool that allows you to blend R code with text, right? So you can have descriptive text, kind of like I showed. You can have all of your code, and you can have figures, tables, and any other graphs. You can have maps. You can make them interactive. So I can zoom in on a plot. I can highlight specific points. It can tell me what that exact data point is and where it belongs. And the best point is that you do not have to have R to view the HTML. So once you knit that into your final HTML, anybody can open it, right? You just open it with a normal kind of like Google Chrome or Safari browser. So for me, let's say I am writing all of this for a collaborator that doesn't use R. Let's say I'm sending it to Yoakum and I say, here's my statistical output and my figures. He doesn't have to run it through R to see everything. He can just open it up on any computer. I can open it up on my phone. So there's a lot of times, you know, I'll knit it and then I can kind of scroll through just like a web page of all of the stuff that I've done.
Even though you're setting up the R markdown in the input part of the quadrants, it's actually the output. The R markdown is the output that you do.
Yeah, so R markdown, I guess I don't know how to explain that. It's just essentially a tool that
It's basically the annotated code. So instead, for instance, you can put the hashtag in front of it, and that will make everything.
You can annotate in normal R as well. You can do equal types of annotation. R markdown, you can block things. You could say this block is data input, which is also nice because sometimes you end up with a file that's like super long, and R markdown lets you like hide it and make it like one line. So you can kind of, they call them chunks. You can kind of chunk things. So if someone's like, I only care about.
I have it all.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna build on it. I just don't want to get like too far in advance, right? So we're gonna go through everything kind of step by step. So before we get into chunks or anything else like that, if you have R markdown open, you kind of see those extra chunks there. And actually, I'll just go back. So this is what happens when you first start an R markdown. This very top portion here is actually our YAML header. And I may be wrong, but YAML stands for yet another machine language, is what I've read. So, I mean, it's just another way of writing some code. But mainly this YAML header here is an R markdown section at the beginning of the file. And the way that you designate this YAML is these 3 dashes on the top and bottom. So it's enclosed by 3 dashes. And and this really plays a crucial role in controlling the overall appearance of your document and how it behaves once you get to your final render. So as an example, you guys only have this output, title, date. You can also add in quite a few different things. So at this point, I'm just going to show this. You guys will get this a little bit later. But you can now, when you knit an HTML document, you can have your code hidden. So it doesn't show all of your code. It just shows the output of your code. So it makes it a lot easier for people to read. You can add a table of contents. You can really change the way your table of contents looks. You can also change the height and width of all of your figures and some other very important things there as well. You can do some things like create different themes and how it looks, the different colors of everything. But the main point here is that you can put your title of your document, put your name, put your date, and it'll kind of stay there. So then next, you'll see here, so this is an example, this right here,
Quick
this
question.
hashtag. Yeah, Heidi, what's up?
Yeah, so that list of like table and contents and theme and everything.
Yep.
Is that like automatically there when you
No, so if
create
you,
it?
so if you, no, so like I mentioned, when you start an HTML, this is all that will come out, or when you start an R markdown.
Okay,
You have to manually put all of those extra, we'll call it metadata. So for right now, this is the ones I commonly use. And when I give you at the end of the session, when I send out all this script, you will have that. But this is just a preference.
thanks.
You can change a lot of different things, and this is just what I carry over from markdown to markdown. So,
Okay, yeah. Yep,
and we'll
thank you.
get in. Yeah, I guess I'm not going to change anything right now. Okay, so next is we can also do headings and subheadings, right? So headings serve as like the main titles and sections, or titles or major section headings within your document. And then whatever you put as a heading here, so like this one, this will actually be what's added to your table of contents. So everything that has these hashtags is a part of your table of contents. So these headings and subheadings are created using the hash symbol, similar to what you see here. The headings, the main heading would be one hash symbol, a subheading would be 2, or a subheading is 3. You can kind of continue on down that line to create subsections within your document. So just so using these headings really aid in your document organization and also navigation for both yourself and for others, especially when you have thousands and thousands of lines of code and you want to get to one specific point. These headings really help you get to those areas. So even in our markdown, you can see that I now have this outline here to help me navigate through my code. Some notes here: try to keep your headings concise and descriptive, right? You don't want them kind of running on. You don't want a full sentence. You just kind of want short bullet points, but also keep them descriptive enough that you know where you're navigating to. And also it is highly recommended to avoid trying to do like additional styling like bolds and italics. Just let our markdown do its thing for headings and subheadings. And then for me, I like to put subheadings directly above some chunks of code. That way I know this chunk of code is ANOVA for yield. This chunk of code, the subcode is the least significant difference for yield. That way I can navigate to it. And that's just what I do. Finally, we get into what a code chunk is. And this is unique to our markdown. I mean, I don't know. I can't say that. Maybe just the way that it is in here. So code chunks are fundamental elements in your R markdown. And this allows you to embed and execute R code within your document. So code chunks are enclosed by these 3 backticks. And then you have to designate that you're writing in the R language. If we want, we can just leave it as just R. And then R has to be within those brackets. This is saying I'm starting a chunk and I'm writing in the R language. And then you need to have 3 backticks on the bottom end of your chunk.
There are keyboard shit.
Yeah, and so what I usually do, she's saying keyboard shortcuts, because it's a kind of a pain in the butt to go 3 backticks, bracket, R, bracket. So that took a long time. All that you have to do is Control-Alt-I for insert. So Control-Alt-I starts a code chunk.
We can insert that.
Yes,
Control.
but don't put it in your YAML header, you'll just cause problems. Yeah, don't even, just let that kind of do its thing too.
Which generally, I put that chunk to run it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, that plot pressure you have. Yeah, there you go. I'll kind of get into that. I think that, Man, I didn't find, oh yeah, I'm right here. I'm just getting into that. So using code chunks, so the reason why you have chunks is really to break everything down into manageable sections. Like a lot of, especially when I'm working with like genetic stuff, I think one of my scripts is somewhere around 10,000 lines of code. So having chunks like that really help you say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish right now. Not having to have run on things. And we'll get into a little, probably next session or the session after that. We'll get into some more complicated stuff. Oh, when you put code within a chunk, it's executed in the R markdown document, and then it's rendered. So when we finally make our rendered HTML document, it's called knitting. I actually have no idea what's going to happen. Let's click knit. Oh, shoot. It's going to make you save it. So just make sure you're saving it where you want to save it. I'm going to make sure I'm in my documents. You can put it in downloads. Let's just put it in downloads. I'm just going to do R. Let's see what happens. Error. Why did I get an error? So then it'll tell you error mapping not allowed in lines 5. Why would it do that? Anybody else get an error?
No, I got included box.
Cool. Cool. So now you can kind of see, I don't know where your viewer is going. I mean, is it going into your viewer when you click knit? Okay. I don't know why. For some reason, my settings has it pushed into the viewer. Yeah. So anyways, this is now that final rendered version. This is what can be opened up in any browser. For me, mine goes into this. For other people, if you click that knit button, it'll create a new, new window. I have no idea. I did something and I can't figure out how I did it. It makes me frustrated.
I think we did it in one of those.
So for me, I can show in a new window, and then it comes up as in my Google Chrome browser, right? So you can kind of see what that looked like. Okay. Is everybody still doing okay? Oh, whatever Mike did. Yeah. Can't handle the new versions. Okay. Well, right now is a good time. Anybody on Zoom have any specific questions?
You don't actually have anything in here. Like
Yep.
I just downloaded this morning.
Yep.
How is it, like, where is it making this table from?
Yeah.
You have
So
to-
yeah. So everybody should have the same table. So when you download R, you have what's called your base packages. So you can do typical stats and kind of some general things. And within your base R is a package called cars, or I don't know if it's actually a whole package. Anyways, it's a huge data set that a lot of introductory. What do I want to say?
A lot of examples use
Yeah.
cars because everyone has it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking up code, the example will usually be like using cars so you can replicate it on your machine.
Mhm.
It's something that comes when you download.
Yeah. It just helps you, kind of, unifies everybody. So everybody has it. So if you want to learn, a lot of the guidelines are based off of that. And actually a really big data, I shouldn't say really big, but it has like the type, make, model, how many cylinders, and all these different things. So you can really break down the data in a lot of different ways. So there's a lot of examples using that data set.
Why did you choose not to use it?
Because I want it like, these are the ones what we work with, right? These are the treatments, the reps, things that you're actually going to be doing. You guys don't need to be knowing what the miles per gallon of a Honda 4-cylinder vehicle is. Okay. Then finally, so when we're in this chunk, there's a few different ways you can do this. But when you knit it, it will knit absolutely everything in your code. But if I want to just do this summary, I can just play that play button. You know, it's this run current chunk. We run that and you can see that it does the summary for that data. So speed and distance of that data, or we can do plot pressure. Or, you know, if we do this button, this run all chunks above. So let's say I forgot to load in a package and it's like 1,000 lines of code ahead, and there's some other things that go on before where I'm at. Running that will run everything above you to make sure everything's loaded in properly. So then you can effectively run the code that you're on. And then lastly, wherever you are within a chunk. So if I have my cursor here at the end of plot and I click Control Enter on my keyboard, that will run just that one line of code. So for cars, so here, let's say if I put plot and pressure in the same chunk, if I run that, it's going to do both of them simultaneously. But let's say I only want to do plot pressure, then I hold down Control and at the same time click Enter. And that's going to do just that one line of code. So quite often when I'm going through, I'll just be using Control Enter for every bit of code that I'm doing, just to make sure it's working properly. And once everything's working properly, then you can run that entire chunk all together. And we'll get into some more complex.
You get into, when I hit the Control Enter, it keeps popping up into the script, into that quadrant.
Yeah, so you have your options as show input or show output inline. And that's a preference. Do you want to change that?
It'd be nice to then it's keeping it cleaner on the.
I know. Yeah. So what you have to do here is you go to tools. You go all the way down to the bottom and say global options. Then we're going to go down to our markdown. This is my settings here. So if you want to copy how mine look, make sure you have show document outline. Oh no, show output preview in viewer pane.
And you don't want that output inline for all, we don't want.
Correct. That's what's going to create, that's what's going to put it in your top left quadrant. So yeah. And these are just personal preferences too. So, yeah. Okay. So where are we? So yeah, so we got on that. And finally, I want to just also mention using the hash symbol within a chunk. So if I use the hash symbol here, this is a comment.
Is there a reason why you hit Enter twice?
Space it. I just like to space things out. It gets hard to read if you have everything clumped together. So using this hash character hashtag is also used to create comments within a chunk. So if it's used outside of a chunk, it's going to create a heading. If it's used within a chunk, our markdown is going to know to avoid this. So it's not going to run it as code. It's just going to run it as word. It's just going to run it as a comment, right? So that's why it's called commenting out, or just a comment. You can use this two different ways. You can use it within the code chunk to provide helpful context, you know, clarifying the purpose of the code or adding any explanatory notes. Or you can use it to comment out a piece of code or to hide that code. So if I did that, so what I did, actually, I should mention there's a shortcut for this. Oops, that's not what I want to do. If I highlight everything and I hit Control, Shift, Comment, or you just put the hashtag in front of it, now R is going to think that that's just a comment and not a piece of code. So there'll be some times where if I'm copying and pasting things and I don't want it to run, I'll hide it, but maybe later on I might want it to run. So that's just what we do. I'm not deleting it out completely, but I'm just hiding it.
Control Shift what?
You don't have a Control Shift C.
Oh, C.
Sorry, Control Shift C.
Then you're just choosing to hide that.
Yeah.
and Go back. Is there just a simple way of undoing it? now?
Yeah, so as long as it's all highlighted, just click Control Shift C again. So let's say for me, I'm sorry, it's gonna be messy. I want to hide all of that. Now I just commented everything else. So I did at each line of code. You know, so now it's gonna run, now it's hidden. That's essentially what we're saying.
Eval equals. Mm.
Really?
Yeah.
I really don't mess with those.
Oh, I do that all the time. But
Really?
that's because I do armor.
Well, and usually like I'm only doing like one piece. I
Yeah.
usually won't do a whole chunk. Okay. Last thing about our markdown. Like I said, this kind of helps you have some extra text in there. So we're just going to do some other fun things that's not here. So we can do some asterisks. So if we wanted to make something an asterisk, we just type in, or we put the asterisk button to make italics. Asterisks make italics. So once again, if I do that, let's see what happens. I think you have to knit it into your final thing here. So at the end, italics is in italics. Let me just hide all of that. So let's go way down here. So doing enclosed in asterisks creates italics. Okay.
Whatever you say in it.
Yeah. As long as it's enclosed. If I do two asterisks, it creates a bold lettering. We can also do some other things where if we enclose, let's say we use this tilde, so I'll do H2O. That's going to create subscript. Having these what are called tildes. Once again, this will all be on, I have this all listed out in this final guideline that I have. And then we can also do a pair of carets for superscript. So let's say copper. Okay. Just space that out. And then finally, we can do block quotes using this. So quote. Okay. So those are kind of some other things we can do. So we can create italics using asterisks. We can create bold lettering using double asterisks. We can create subscripts with these tildes and also superscripts with these carets. And then also quotes by putting these the greater than symbol. Once again, I'll just knit that all out so you can kind of see what it looks like. So then here at the bottom, we have italics, bold. We have that subscript, superscript, and then kind of these quotes on the bottom.
Does the quotes come out with that little gray bar?
Yes, they always do. Yeah.
So I did my double asterisk. This should be bold double asterisk, and then just single line, not spaced, in the H2O things, and then in the R markdown, it put it as one line.
Yeah.
That's because I didn't double space it.
Yes. Yeah. So as long as you have it, you have to. You almost have to have space. If you don't space out stuff in your script, it will assume it's on the same line. I don't know why.
So if I go back and just hit.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, because you can have code that wraps around from line to line if it's too long.
Oh, the R engine needs to carry
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no like semicolon to end the line.
So if you guys didn't, if you can't hear on Zoom, so Yoakum's mentioning, you know, what we experience. We need to have spaces, so we need to have at least 2 character turns. Character turns. Carriage.
Carriage return. It's a typewriter. You know, when-
Carriage return.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Millennial.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's ASCII code.
That's too funny. So
No one learns that
carriage
anymore, Yoko.
return.
What,
No one learns that anymore, Yoko.
So yeah, you
what do you think this is using in the background?
I don't need to know.
It's significant all, but you
that's too
understand.
funny.
I see, no, I do have to Google.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, just make sure you have space.
Oh,
Or even cards in SAS. That one's always gets me. You know why they're called cards? Like when you have your data, you do cards and all your numbers because they were literally on a card.
Oh, yeah. I should know that. My mom constantly complains. When I learned how to code, I had to do it by hand on cards.
Yeah.
But also, Perl uses semicolons as well. Like, every language has their own little corrective denoting the end of a line, but R doesn't. So it tries to figure it out.
Actually, so while everybody on Zoom, can everybody hear like Sam talking and Yoakum talking? Just curious. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I can talk right now so that you can test.
Yeah, she's talking right now.
I can hear Sam. It's a little hard to hear Yoakum though.
Yeah, makes sense. Yoakum's on the other end of the table, so
I don't want to listen to it.
your words, not mine.
You said it before I could.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. So if there's any questions, I'll try my best to kind of reiterate those questions. Okay, so now that we've explored some of those formatting techniques and kind of what R is and what R markdown is, we can finally start delving into the core of what of programming with R. So in programming, a string is a sequence of characters. And this really forms the backbone of many operations, from data manipulation to generating reports. So a string in R is a sequence of characters, which can be letters, numbers, symbols, or even just spaces. And these strings are created by using a single or double quotations. They operate the same thing, and they can be assigned or named using this assignment operator. So we're going to create our first string. We're just going to do my string. We're going to use this assignment operator, which is just a less than sign, a dash mark, and we're going to do hello world. Do your first one. So, like I mentioned, let's kind of go back. So a string can just is in quotation marks. So strings are created using single or double. So, if we wanted to, what do I want to do? So like what I try to say by that, that's a single quote. It operates the same as doing shift in quotes. So yeah, we're enclosing that in a quote, and then we are assigning it or naming it using this assignment operator. So here's where you can simply do Control Enter. So now if I look in my environment, I now have a new value called my string.
Do you have to knit that?
No, as long as you Control Enter. And at this point, it doesn't have to be in, if you do knit it, it won't run it as code actually. So that's my next step. So in order for this actually to work, in our knitted rendered file, we need to insert a code chunk. And we can also write this. So my string, hello world.
Refresh, how do you quickly do the whole?
Control Alt I. So the question was, how do you do the shortcut for creating a chunk? It's Control Alt I.
And that's also the same shortcut on the Mac. I know no one else but me has a Mac, but it's actually the same.
Yeah, we'll get into this. What I didn't know is that your file paths have backslashes where all windows have forward slashes, or no, the opposite, which is really unfortunate. We'll get into that.
But I might be the only one with the
I think so.
stuff.
Joachim, have you gotten our markdown working?
No.
Okay. Are you just using our script just to kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. So using these strings, we can also combine them into new ones, or this is also referred to as concatenating. And you'll see why here in or one of the operators here. So this is the one I like. This is my example that I did. I'm gonna create a string called first for my first name. I'm gonna put Austin. And then I'm gonna do another one, oops, called last. And my last name is Lean. So if I run that and I click Control Enter, you can see that in my environment, I now have a value or character that's first and a value character last. And then we can combine those together using this paste function. So I'm going to make a new one called name. Or actually, let's not even do that. Oops. I know. I'm just going to get this on here. So paste first, last. And now you can see how on the bottom there, it popped out both of those combined together. Now this is redundant. It's just a practice, just to see how things work together.
What happens if you do a single quotation at the beginning and a double quotation at the end? Is that
I don't think it will work. What do you think?
Oh,
I think you have to be consistent.
to be?
Yeah, so Mike's question was, well, what happens if you do a single quote in the front and then a double quote in the back? Let's see if, well, I'm gonna remove everything. We're gonna start over. No, it doesn't work. So it doesn't recognize it as a string. So you have to be consistent. You have to have the same type of quotes.
So I did all that typing just to get in the top right quadrant. It says in the table first, Michael last. Why is that?
Yeah, kind of. So what I'm just trying to emphasize is, that we can assign things. We're gonna get into a little bit more here. You can also do a few different things here with the paste function. So if I wanted to, I can do paste, let's do last, oops, first, separator, and I want these to be separated by a comma and a space. So there, now it did your last name, comma, space, my first name. You can add those separators in as well.
So okay, where does that show up then?
What? So right now it's showing up down here, but let's just go ahead and if we knitted it, as long as it's in a chunk, you can see how if I had code folding off, this would not show up. So, yeah, so that's my code. If I want that hidden, we can hide it and only this would show up. So that's my output.
You want to show how you could make that paste into a new variable?
Yeah. So in talking about assigning things, we can also make this, that's all you're talking about. So we can also make it a new name. So once again, we have these strings and we're assigning it different names. So I'll just do this first one. Keep putting lean instead of last. Okay, so now if we look in our environment here, we see that we have a new value with both my first and last name. But for it to actually get rendered on your final rendering, we need to explicitly say name. That's how we get that to show up. So if anybody has any questions, now is a good time to do it. This next step will be important, and this is somewhat important. I don't know.
So
I'm gonna get into
Build on each.
yeah.
Is
Do the
there a reason why you put the step equals?
yeah. So that means separator.
The next line down?
No, there's no reason. I like to just space it out just so it's easier to read for myself.
Okay.
So like what we mentioned before, so that maybe that's why too. So even though it's on the second line, it's still reading it as one altogether.
That's because there's a
And-
comma and it hasn't closed parentheses.
Yeah, and actually, that's actually what these parentheses are dictating. So even though these are on separate lines, because the two parentheses here it will read as one line of code.
And a comma.
So you're telling it to separate my first and last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and then what you did there is paste in quotations first, last. Then you, below that, you did name greater than the less than.
Or
You're
assign,
telling
let's
it-
say assignment.
yeah, you're assigning it, this is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What he has highlighted, and following that, then you have to paste first, last. He assigned, when I type in name, it's gonna show.
Yeah, let me just knit it again. So once again, you know, with our markdown, a lot of what we're gonna be doing. Ooh, yeah, where am I going? Okay, so when we come down here, once again, imagine that essentially I'm just pasting these together, but the computer doesn't know that I want an assignment. The computer doesn't know that those should always be together. So in order for it to be combined and renamed, I'm going to rename this paste first and last into a new string called name. And now every time that I pull up name, it will come together with the first and the last as one.
Whenever you type in name up here in the bottom, when you hit mid, it's just gonna throw your name. And you just decide.
Once again, this is an exercise. There's not a lot of times that I'm going to do exactly this. What's really nice though is I can create an entire data frame. So if I say name and it's actually the name of every individual here at the University of Minnesota, that's actually, you know, it can store all that information under name. Yeah. Right. So then we'll get into that. So we're going to create some vectors here next. So everybody okay? Sarah? Okay.
I'm so small
Like-
like that.
Well, and no, I'm just saying you got to build on it. So, and once again, you'll have all of this information written, hopefully in a nice way. I spent quite a bit of time trying to have a nice guideline for everybody. Very similar to what we're doing right now. Okay, so we're gonna make a new chunk. So Control Alt Enter. We're gonna create a new string. I'm gonna call it names this time. And now we are going to create a vector. So a vector is another fundamental. What's that? I, Control Alt I. That's okay. No, on it. Okay. So I was just, I was talking to Mike about this earlier. So I was first exposed to R in like 2015, and I went through a workshop like this, and I was so overwhelmed, and absolutely had no idea what I was doing, and essentially just stopped going to the workshop, because I just fell behind. So I just don't want that to happen, and I really just want it to be, hopefully you take away something, and at least just get comfortable with what we're doing, so you can build on it in the future. Because if you don't get these fundamentals now, you won't be able to understand other tutorials and things like that online. So I don't want that to happen, right?
Also, I always forget that shortcut, but I always remember it has an I in it, so I just keep hitting 2 other keys and then I until I figure it out. So like, because usually command is involved, not control
For you.
for me, and so I always forget, so I just keep trying.
And there's so
So-
many. So there's like a piping, there's other
Yeah,
operators.
Yeah,
One is Control Shift, one is Control Alt, and one is Control Shift Alt.
because they're all like different so, and then I also do R, Perl, and Python. So like, I never know what I'm doing, and that's fine. They're really good like websites to search for stuff, but getting down terminology is helpful so that you know what to Google, essentially.
Yeah.
When we took a class for our PhDs, one of the things was like, Corey kind of said, I want you guys to know like what terms to Google.
Yeah.
Because someone has probably done what you want to do before. But sometimes the hardest part is just figuring out how to word your question so that you get the answer you want. So some stuff like this is good practice so that you're like, okay, what do I do? Oh, I remember there's a shortcut and it's called a chunk. I can use those 2 words to Google what that answer is. So
Yeah,
just
very true.
knowing the terms.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sam. So like I mentioned, so we're going to talk about these vectors. So these are kind of like one-dimensional arrays, and they're created using this function. You do C, and then you enclose it in parentheses. Does anybody have an idea of what that C stands for? It said this term, concatenation. Concatenate. So combining together. You think of C as combine. So C, combine, put it in parentheses. And we're going to do a list of names. I have another list of names. You guys can write anything you want. I'm going to do Alice, Bob, and Charlie. I'm going to keep going. You guys can stop. Just for the next, something else I want to do, I need at least a couple.
When I hit the quotation symbol, it automatically puts that in there. You are hitting the right arrow to skip past quotation every time.
It'll, if you use quotes, it'll usually give you the
It'll give you
pair.
both.
Yeah, so then you just go inside. Yeah. So it does that with parentheses too, where it
True.
knows that it always wants a matching pair, so it'll give you both. So you just want to be inside of that. It tries to make it easier for you.
I guess it also goes into, we'll get into it, tab to completion. So essentially it helps you minimize the amount of typing errors that you have. So right now I have names in there. So let's say I wanted to use paste again. If I start typing paste, will it do it? So I can go down and tab to completion. That way I know that that's exactly what I want to use and I don't use something different.
Well, and also that's,
Why?
oh yeah, sometimes you're like, what the pop up? Tab to complete is also something that when you talk about like data management and keeping good notes is something that is highly suggested because it just helps you keep track of like variable names and file names if you let it complete it for you. Because that will also, then you're not making a typo and you're like, why won't this run? And it turned out that you spelled something wrong, which is something that happens to me a lot. So it's good practice to like basically always use tab complete. That way you're reducing the amount of typos.
This may be a silly question, but my stuff is in green. Yours is in blue.
You can
Yeah,
change
so that's in
your-
my theme. I
Yeah.
went through quite a few different themes trying to think of what was the easiest for all of you guys to read.
Yeah.
So yeah, just once again a theme thing. I used to have like the dark midnight one and you
That's
couldn't.
what Darla has night mode.
Yeah.
You can have, there's one I think that's like pink. There's a lot of different things that you can add.
Okay, so now that we've created, we're using our, let's call it our combine function. We have a list of 4 names and I want to create another one with a list of 4 different ages.
Now in the order you type those names are automatically combined to the order you type the pages.
Yes. So if you guys didn't hear that, it's very important. That the order that you type these names in will match exactly the order that you type these numbers in. So it's very important that they are the same length. And also within one string, they're all the same type of character. So if I typed Alice, Bob, Charlie, Derek, and then type 2, it's going to assume that 2 is a name. You know, the computer can't tell the difference. It's going to assume that it's a character and not just a number. Right? The same thing if I typed in all these numbers and I try to type in Alice, it's not going to know what to do with that. It's going to assume now, since you have Alice in there, all these numbers are actually characters, right? Yes.
Maybe I don't.
No.
So when I do that with the quotes and not quotes, my names are in green and the numbers are in blue. My
Okay.
question, I guess, is, I forgot what the quotes are for.
So especially the quotes,
Why don't you put those on the number?
sometimes I do.
Okay,
But they're not.
It's not necessary. So if we go up, whoa, So I
Actually,
have that names. So you see here, oh, I haven't even done my age yet. So I'll do age. So you see here that doing it without those is going to make it, age is a list of numbers. 4 numbers. Here, names are a list of 4 characters. So it automatically assumes they're numbers.
if you put quotes, it'll change it to character.
Will it?
I just tested.
Oh, okay, we're gonna test it again. Thank you, Sam. But right now, so the question was, do I need to have quotes? So if I'm gonna actually name this ages, that way it's a little different.
Mhm.
Okay, so there we go. So now you see,
How do you get that to just pop in there and then enter? Are you pushing something special?
oh yeah, so that's my control enter. So I'm on that line and I'm doing control enter. Oh, so yeah, so I ended up, if you just highlight, if you double click and highlight, and then click just the quotation button, it will automatically assume.
You're gonna get buried in the.
No, that's why we're doing it.
So that way you can just kind of like.
We're kind of right on track. I was hoping this would be about an hour. So
But that's,
I'm gonna
so
do-
it's true in both markdown and non. But yeah, so it's like all enter will actually. Okay, yeah. Because sometimes you're like, I'm gonna write all of this and then run it in
and I'll just put this. Quotation make the
the.
turn into characters not.
All enter will be like acting things, you know, versus. I just want to say. Okay.
Okay, so I have one last thing, and then maybe we take a little break. So did that answer your question, Sarah? Sorry. Okay, so now that we've created some vectors, we're now going to merge them together into a data frame. So a data frame now is the 2-dimensional data structure. So tables. Data frame is just a table. So data frames consist of columns, which can be different types of data. So you can have a character column and then a number column arranged within, and then each of which can then have a different type arranged into rows. I'm sorry, that was really messy. Essentially, they're just a collection of vectors, and then each vector is a column, right? So we're going to take, now that we have names and we have age, we're going to create a new table called attendees. Attendees. And all that we're going to do, instead of using the paste function, we have to use the data frame function. And we're going to put names and age together. Run it. Okay. So if you guys run that and click Control Enter, you'll actually see that a very new structure appeared in our environment tab. So it's not a value anymore. Now we actually have data. So if you want to view this, we can click on attendees, which brings us into this area. You can clearly see our column names and our rows. But also we can use this little, yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm just waiting. Yeah, you get it?
No.
Okay.
What do I do?
So anyways, what I like to do is you click on this little blue arrow up here, and you can see that it drops down. It does this drop down here, and it shows each of our vectors, which show our name, the type it is, and the values associated with it. So we have names as a character with those 4 assigned, and then we also have age as a number with those 4 assigned.
Yeah, my little table's not so up.
Your attendees table?
Yep.
Did you name it attendees?
Yep.
Do you have names, you have age?
Yep. I got
Assigned?
the drop down arrow on the right and then the environment project, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, I think.
Or if you just click attendees, like click on it. Yeah, there you go. If you want to actually view it, once again, just make sure you click on that name over here. We'll actually pop it up, or this drop down button here. I have one last thing and then we'll take a break.
You got
Yeah, I just had a quick. Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So that was, so we finally created a data frame. One last thing here is, do you guys notice this $sign? When you do that drop down menu, so we have attendees, $, names. So this $sign is used to extract specific columns again. So if you have a big data frame and I only want to see name, I can now take attendees, $sign, and once again, tab to complete, name. And if we click that, then we get our list of our names. So it's a way to just focus on one column. So that's how we get to those columns. So if I wanted to look in just this data frame, I type in the data frame name, $, column, and that's going to focus on that one column of our data frame. Does that make sense?
How did you, maybe I missed this, what is 619? How do
Yeah.
you get those extra to, if I don't have anything?
You just click that drop down button.
Oh.
Yeah. A little arrow, that play arrow, and drop it down. Okay. So anybody on Zoom, do you guys have any questions? Danielle, Heidi, Cameron? I'm gonna assume that's a no. So it has been an hour. I'm gonna say if anybody wants to take a quick 5-minute break, I'm gonna pause recording here for a minute. You guys can use the restroom, get up, stretch, get your eyes away from the computer. And then we'll pick back up from there. I'm gonna keep my screen recording. What happened to my? Zoom recording. Okay. So just for the recording purposes, we're picking back up. And one of the things that we wanted to discuss was once we create our attendees data frame, is there a way to remove just that one data frame? And the way that you do that is use this RM function. And this will then remove that from our environment. I don't want that though. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Okay. So the next step that we're going to start getting into is actually installing and loading packages. So yeah, installing packages in R is absolutely necessary to access all the additional functions and capabilities not included in our base R installation. So for example, to install packages, we're going to create a new chunk here, and we're going to literally type in install dot packages. And the first one we're going to load in here is just called read XL. Oops. And very importantly, you have to have quotations. So I think I have that here to load. Oh yeah. So to install the package, use install packages function, providing the name of the packages in quotes. And a lot of times I find new packages just by following tutorials and things like that. But I'm going to show you right now, we're going to use 2 of the main packages that you will need. The first here is going to be install.packages, read Excel, and install.packages. Tidy first. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm not going to run these. Oh, fine. It's going to read. I'm going to say no to that one right now. So it just came in. It's just saying I already have it loaded in. I already have an updated version. I'm going to do the same thing. Do you have the bottom tildes?
That's what it's.
They give a bunch of warnings.
Do you have the tildes on the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. And so if you guys are doing this, you can see that you're kind of installing quite a few different things. And now Mike had made this comment. So once you install packages, those should be within your R file until you have an updated version of R. So they'll always be there. And so every time you run this script now, you don't have to reinstall the packages. But what you do have to do is use the library function to load that package in. So using the install packages makes it available to your computer, and using the library function makes it loaded in to the R environment that we're working with currently. Oh, now we're gonna load both of those in, and we can also do that. We're gonna look in packages here. So now you can see that when I go to read Excel, geez, way down here. I have a lot of packages I get.
It also just kind of like populates it with commonly used.
I know.
You're like,
I do have a lot. Now you can see that we have read Excel in our packages, and we do have it check marked, saying that it is loaded in to our environment.
I got a warning saying there's no tidyverse.
Did you do tidyverse in quotation marks?
Oh, yeah, I did originally.
Yep, and then library tidyverse?
Yeah.
Did you spell it right? TIDY? Yep.
this one, because you did install the.
Oh. Perfect. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, Sam.
If you're having an issue, somebody else might. So once again, let's just reiterate the tab to completion aspect here. So if I just start slowly typing in install, we can go all the way down to install packages and tab.
With the arrows.
Yeah, what is tab? What is installed packages?
No, I think it just lists them.
Oh.
Downside of tab complete, sometimes you still kind of have to know what you're trying to
look at that.
complete.
So yeah, installed packages here just kind of shows everything. It tells you needs. Yeah, all right. I don't know. Tells you what version they're built in. I guess I don't really care.
And I add a note.
Yeah.
Another thing to think about is on the packages, you could just like check anything.
Oh,
But it's
down.
better practice to actually use library, because that will kind of like reload it in a better way. So sometimes when you check it and then you try to use it, ours like, oh, LOL, it won't work, because it doesn't give you an error message all the time. So it's always best practice to just do library to recheck it, then like manually check it. I'm not exactly sure why, but I've definitely checked things and then it didn't give me an error, and then I got an error later. So just always type library. It looks like a nice little shortcut, but it might cause.
Yeah, it's just nice to also just double check. Like,
But yeah, you
okay,
can
I
just
do
check
have
it,
it.
like, oh yeah, it is there.
I went and double checked and my read Excel was not checked, so I had to go back. Like the line. I highlighted and I clicked my cursor in the line library read Excel and hit Control Enter again, and then it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good to like make sure that what you think is available is, but even though you can just like manually check it, I would recommend against doing it.
Yeah. Also, I do have it here. If you have like a long list of what you want to do, we can also do a vector here as well. So if I want to install multiple packages at once, I can do my compile. Okay, 1 second, I see you got your hand up. We can do read Excel and tidyverse all in the same line. Close down. So now it's going to install both of them at the same time. All right, Yoakum, you got a question?
Yeah, so why not go to the right left corner, bottom corner packages, hit the install button, type in the package you want to install and hit enter?
You can clearly do that as well. So there's going to be sometimes, so he was saying, why don't we just kind of use this install button, type in the packages that you want and install it. The only reason I wouldn't do that, it's just easy. It's easy to do, especially if you're doing a string. If I know that I need to use this, And then also there's going to be different versions of those packages. So a lot of times if you want to install a new package from a certain GitHub account, it's going to be a little bit more involved. So if you're installing them from a different area, not all of them are available in this like repository. So that's the only reason. And then also you just get to visually see. It's just good practice.
Yeah,
You
because
bring up a good
probably in your notes, if someone's looking at your R markdown, they know exactly what packages you use because you library named them each time. So it's easier for like someone else to copy or replicate what you did. So that's why it's considered like good practice. It's not necessary, but
Do you have to reload these every time?
Yeah.
you have to hit
So-
library every time, but you do not have to hit install package.
Yeah. So I have that here. Installed packages will remain in your main R file, wherever your R has been downloaded to, and should not need to be installed again until you update R to a new version. Because if you download, let's say you download R, you have R version 4.3.1. The next time you download it, you're going to get a new folder that says version 4.3.2 that does not have your packages installed. You have to go through an extra step to get there. But once installed, your packages will stay in your R and only need to be loaded using the library function every time you use it. So typically, I usually have a list of like the 5 main packages I have and my YAML header. So that way, I usually just copy and paste that, paste it into my new markdown that I'm using. That way, I have the same YAML header and the same 5-10 packages that I need listed there.
Yeah.
Yet another machine language is what I've read. Okay, so Mike, so a lot of times too, I don't like to carry over this install packages. So once you install it once, you don't really need this every time you use it, right? So that's why you can also take this and type it down here. So you can still type and execute code down in this bottom left area, but it's not going to show up in your R markdown file. There's not going to be any evidence whatsoever that you use this. So it just prevents clutter. So using that bottom left area for coding or executing code prevents clutter. It's usually just used for just double checking something really quick, or that's pretty much it. I am going to leave that up there for, I'll leave that. So, you can do a string. You can also, can you do a vector within library? Yeah, I don't know. I would just list them all out, explicitly list library and the packages you're using. Is there? You don't have another question, do you? I'm just gonna lower your lower hand. There we go. Oh, you're still there. Okay. And I see chat. I know how that feel.
That's from me.
Oh, okay,
Or
perfect.
there's one from me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna go through here. So we just use read Excel. This explicitly is used to load in explicitly Excel packages. So like
Files.
.xl, yes, thank you. Like the .xlsx Excel files.
There's one of those for like every type of.
Yeah, so like a CSV, common separated value. So tidyverse, well, this one that we loaded in actually loads in like 5 additional packages all together in one clump. So we have ggplot2, which is for data visualization, creating graphics. We have dplyr for data manipulation, so we can combine or separate columns or move things around. We have tidyr for data tidying. There's one example where we'll use this. There's readr, which is for more data import. I don't know why. And then tibble for, they say, reimagining the data frame. There's only one thing that I've seen. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, I used to.
Yeah, no, the only thing though is just like when you write it, send it, you just see character numeric. I don't really know. It doesn't provide much, but just bringing in tidyverse is just a shortcut, brings in a couple of extra things so you don't have to bring them all individually. But you can provide install and download those packages separately as well. So if I just wanted ggplot2, I can bring in ggplot2 using library ggplot2. Okay. I also like to use this one called Table Extra. It helps you create some really nice looking tables. I just have this on my notes. Are you looking for something particular, Sarah?
Sorry, thanks. I just tried to put that down there like you said, but mine gave me an error.
Oh,
Sorry.
you have both of your parentheses?
Oh, no, I'm saying update, like,
Oh, so yeah, there's a difference between warnings and errors as well. So warnings are just saying, hey, we're doing this, but just so you know, this. Okay, well, they're working. I'm going to just say a couple more packages. I have some aesthetic packages like our color brewer for changing palettes, color palettes. Library scales will change the scales of your plots. You can download library extra font for different fonts like Times New Roman or a bunch of other ones. And then I have a big long list of statistical analysis packages. Agricola is a good one, mainly for like split plot, split plot, or strip plot analysis. Also used for like Fisher's least significant difference or Tukey's honest significant difference for only general linear models. Then we get into some packages like LME4 and LMER test for mixed model ANOVA and assigning random effects. This is equivalent to like proc mixed and proc glimix. And then we have also our library e-means, which is our estimated marginal means, which is equivalent to LS means in the proc glimix or with proc glimix. So I don't know, maybe Danielle or who, if anybody's doing mixed models, we'll get into this much later. Maybe like next Tuesday. Heidi, do you have a question?
Oh, yes. Will you list these?
Yes. Yeah,
you-
when we get done with today, I will send you my whole notes page. You will have
Awesome.
like, as I'm reading through this right now, I have like a bunch of edits I need to do. Okay. So really all that we needed was our library read Excel to bring in that data set I sent you guys, and then our tidyverse to do a few different things like ggplot2. So at this point, we finally covered the basics of R. We talked about its syntax, the variables and data structures, and then essential packages of R. So finally, we can put this knowledge into practice by working with a real data set. But before we start working with that data set, we have to first make sure we're working in the right place. And so the working directory, so we'll set our working directory, and this is the folder where R will look for files, okay? So there's a few different ways, but we need to set our working directory to the folder that contains our file, or where you want all of this saved to. Okay. There's going to be a few different ways, so this might take a little bit, but what I like to do is essentially, this is going to be very complicated. I hate this. This is where it gets so confusing here in a second. I'm sorry, everybody. But let me just finish this paragraph. So setting the working directory is just an important step when working with dataset in R, because the working directory is the folder where R looks for and saves files. By setting this working directory, you know where everything's going, you know where to pull them from, and you also can, it helps refer to those files in a much shorter path, right? So a lot of our research trials, we have like 7 subfolders and like trials by year. So then 2024 trials or disease trials, rhizoctonia disease trials, and then location. So it ends up being this super long file path that I don't want to type in every time. So that's why we're going to set our working directory, and then it makes sure that we're saving it into the correct file. So there's a few different ways to determine the file path for setting your working directory. And it really does depend on your operating system. Mac and Linux is a little bit different.
If you have a Mac and you would like to know the path, just message me and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the only person who uses a Mac.
Yeah.
So I think showing it would be overly confusing.
Yeah. So there's a few different ways. So in RStudio, so before we get into different yeah, operating systems. In our studio, you can just go to session, go down to, oh wait, yeah, set working directory. And then we go over to choose directory. You can do this no matter what operating system you're on. You can go through and then just navigate. You know, for me, this is my files download. So I'm going to go to my documents, my file folder. I am going to go to 2024 workshop. And that's the folder that I want. I'm just going to click open. Perfect. So here in the bottom, this is probably the best and easiest way. We're just going to copy that chunk of code because typos, errors with your typing can really mess things up here. So this is very important to make sure you have the exact file path. Okay, and then what I was very confusing here is the folders, or you have to be really mindful of these slashes. So in Windows, that actually uses backslashes. So I'm just going to open up my normal file. Here's like my normal one. So if I go to any of these files and I click in here, you can see that there's backslashes. So if I copied this and brought this into R, they're all backslashes, but R reads them, needs to have forward slashes. If you copy your file path like that, really, I don't know of any better way than to actually go through and manually change them. Does anybody else know how to change that?
No.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. That's what I mean, just by setting your working directory and then just copying and pasting that is very helpful. Any questions?
I had a quick-
Yeah.
This indicates another potential pitfall, which I should have mentioned earlier, which is it's also best practice not to put spaces in like file names because that can confuse the computer sometimes. So it's good to
Yeah.
either do like an underscore or a period, especially if you're doing like folder inside a folder inside a folder. Some systems are like actually okay
Yeah.
with it, but some other coding languages hate spaces in file names, so you have to avoid it. So it's good practice to avoid it when you think about it.
When you're doing that too, like let's say you have that instance, what about having your file name start with a number? Is usually okay with that? Okay.
But like in Perl, you have to escape a space and you have to tell it how to read it. So you end up, you can do it. It's just really freaking annoying. So it's good not to.
What else do I have here? I'm gonna just quickly show you a few different things.
Austin,
Yeah.
if you have, like you said, subfolders within that folder, does
Yeah.
it automatically know that? And
So we'll get into that. So let's say I set my working directory as just documents. When I load in what I need to, I can say, so if I set my working directory to just users and documents, it knows that there's going to be subfolders there. So then when you have to search for it, you just have to designate this subfolder and then this file type. We'll get into that in just a second. The thing is, when we save it, then it's going to be saved in only the document and not in that subfolder.
okay.
So this is just where we're looking for things. Okay, so using set working directory, and I always recommend putting this at the top because there's been times too, I'll go back to my code from like 5 years ago. I shouldn't even say that long. Let's say 3 years ago. And I'm like, where did I pull this from? And I'm like, like, where is this file that I wrote this? Like, it's just buried like deep inside some other stuff.
Looking for a file and I'm like, the easiest way to figure out where this file is to go to my R script and look at the set working directory. I actually genuinely did that. I was like,
Yeah.
I have no idea where this file is, but I made a plot based off of it. So then I worked backwards from Laura to figure out where to find that file.
Okay. So, and actually, here's one more thing that we can do. So if you notice in your environment, we can also do import data set. And we can take our import data set from Excel. So when we navigate, So here is once again, here is my PC documents workshop, and I'm going to take that data set. And this will also give me that. This already knows that I'm in my working directory, but you see here, it's telling me that I need to load read Excel, and then I need to use this. So what I like to do is sometimes you can copy all that information as well, and bring that in. I am going to name this though something shorter. Name it assay.
You're gonna have to redo that.
Yeah, well, and then just import data set, navigate to wherever you saved your file. Okay, this the data set that I sent you guys last night, wherever you saved it, set your working directory there. And then we're gonna use the read Excel function to import this data set.
So you just copied that thing.
Yeah, or you can just make, because once again, at this point, I do a lot of copying and pasting just to make sure I have the exact name. If I had 2 spaces here, it would have an error. And we're also going to, I'm-
Usually they'll tell you, hey, you can fix it.
I forgot.
So now you get to.
Now I can browse?
Yeah.
And also show her, before you bring it in, you can choose what sheet you want to take it from. So when you're using the import data set, you can choose what sheet to use, or you can explicitly say it by using this argument here. So essentially, read Excel comes from that package. Read Excel. But once again, so we set our working directory so it knows that we're looking in this folder. And then within this folder, I want to read this Excel sheet. And I want the sheet soil assays. Soil assay. And if you guys have gotten that far, we can do the drop down and you can see everything there in the Excel sheet. So I have year, soil treatment, rep. And I am hopefully, I'm going to skip ahead here. I am just gonna,
The difference is that you.
Whoa, I should not have
named
paste
which was you could change the name if you want to make it like max.
Okay, we'll get into this. We're kind of getting really close on time here, so I'm just gonna show one figure, so you guys can see what we're trying to get to. And then next week, if you guys can join on Thursday, we will go much further into creating box plots and some stuff this week. And like, wait, once again, if you can't make it, I have it recorded. So as they're kind of doing that, I just want to kind of wrap up here. I'm sorry that we kind of took a little bit of time. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and I just want to show you how to make our first box plot. So we're using ggplot2. Essentially, we load in that package. We say we're going to take our data from assay, which we just created with that string. And then we can, within our aesthetics argument, we're going to put soil on the x-axis. We're going to put our total root rot index on the y-axis, and we're going to fill by our treatment. And then we're going to say, I want to do a box plot. We can do a couple of different things. We can do a bar plot. We can do scatter plots. We can do several other things. The width, color, and alpha all change kind of what the plots look like. And then we can also do facet wrap to get them separated by years. We can change the label names based on using this labs argument. So we change the x-axis label, y-axis label, title, and fill. We can change the overall aesthetics of the entire plot here. And then we can get into changing other aspects of the theme. So changing our text size, face, and color. We can change just the x-axis by using this argument. with size, face, and color, and some other things too, like font type. You can also do this element blank, which just removes that aspect of it. So here I just remove the title. We can change our plot title here and center it by using this horizontal justification. We can change our legend position. We can change legend background using this element rect and plot background. So that's just one example. There's so many things you can do with ggplot. So really quickly here, I'm also just going to go through. So we have quite a bit more. You know, we're going to also talk about doing some data manipulation. Yeah. Data manipulation, wide versus long format, you know, how to do a couple other plots using ggpub-r, you know, columns, putting in labels, moving things around, doing jitter points. And finally, we're going to get into making that long format as well to create different line plots or time series. We can do scatter plots and different coefficients and separate them out. And then we're going to get into creating like tables and summaries. You know, this is what I mean by those kind of nice interactive tables. And we'll kind of see how far we get there. I don't know if, depending on how far we get on Thursday, maybe we'll go into the next week and then we can start talking more about some stats and creating some really complex tables where you can include your standard error, your p-values. Where did I go here? It's way down here. Yeah, we're going to talk about split plots, mixed models. Here, so like things like this where you have your p-values, all of your information, standard error, or compact letter display, things like that. So my whole goal though is by the end of all of this, you guys, and I will have all this code. I'm going to send you this guideline so you can kind of go from there. You know, I hope that this will be a very valuable resource. For me, it's been 4 years in the making. So hopefully it'll just be nice for everybody to have. So with that, I am going to stop sharing. I know that was a lot to take in. We'll get into the GG box plot next Thursday, and I'll send you this script that I have.
Do you want us to come with all that in here already?
No, the
Okay.
only thing that you will need for next week is to have
Next week,
this Thursday. Jeez. I feel like it's already Thursday. I've had like such a long one.
I just don't want to get confused.
Okay, so yeah, we will meet next Thursday, same
This
time.
Thursday.
This Thursday. We'll
You'll
meet
meet us.
this Thursday.
We'll meet this Thursday.
Well,
The only thing that you need to come with is the code that you did today.
Not even. You don't even need the code that you did today. All that we need is library, the read Excel, and then load in that just load in that data set I sent. So
So what you just did.
yeah, so we'll only be loading in that assay, and we'll just kind of use this really simple data set to kind of do some things this Thursday. There's a Zoom calendar, or the Zoom invite should be set for this Thursday, and yeah, the Google Calendar invite too. So
So when you close out,
it's going to ask you to save, and at least everything that you have written will be saved, but everything in your environment may disappear, should disappear. I have a weird setting on mine. I don't.
but if you have multiple, what is this top? In the source pane? if you
Yeah.
have multiple things open? Does
That
that actually save each one of those?
So as your scripts, it will.
You'll see
So
all
yeah.
of those counts and all of these.
Okay.
All of those. So,
Yeah, we have just a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions at this point? I'm
you'll
sure
see.
people
You'll-
want to
you'll
get
even still-
going.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna call that a wrap then. Thank you guys, and I'll see you around. If you have any questions, do just come and find me or send me an email.
What if you close out
And we'll talk to you all later. Have a good rest of your day.
You know, all of it still be in